on March 31st, 2004, there is going to be a team of 4 security contractors that work for Blackwater Security Consulting Group. Now, these 4 guys are super experienced, former military guys. One's a former Navy SEAL. One's a former Army Ranger. Another guy was in the 82nd Airborne. One of them actually got the Bronze Star in Afghanistan earlier in the war, right? So these 4 guys are very experienced combat fighters. You know, they know what they're doing. They had escorted a supply run somewhere in Al-Anbar province earlier that day, and I believe they were trying to make their way back to Baghdad. They wanted to take a shortcut through Fallujah to cut some time off their trip. At this point in time, Fallujah is the most dangerous city in Iraq, possibly the world, right? This start of the insurgency war, Al-Qaeda in Iraq and all the other numerous, Islamic terror organizations that spring up from this war, they're all starting to make an appearance there in Fallujah. Well, they decided to do this shortcut through the city without notifying the U.S. military presence that's in control of that AO. They have no clue that these guys are getting ready to roll through the city. If they did, they might have been able to send some kind of support to them. In his book, No True Glory, Bing West describes what happens next like this. Quote, "The contractors crept along in the dense traffic, passing on their right the main police station and the walled compound of the city council, formerly the headquarters for the Ba'ath Party. The government city in Midtown was the final landmark where the contractors could have turned back had any Iraqi policeman waved them down. No Iraqi, though, raised a hand to warn them. Minutes later, emerging from the doorways of shops, insurgents dashed into the street and sprayed both vehicles. Some claimed an Iraqi police pickup had been leading the SUVs and had sped away at the last minute, which that sounds very feasible. But it could have also been not the case either. Continuing on with the quote, with no armor plating on the vehicles, the 4 men inside were riddled with bullets. They had had no chance to fire back. The firing ceased, the shooters drove off, and a crowd of men and boys approached. When an American with bullet wounds in his chest staggered out and fell to the ground, he was kicked, stomped, stabbed, and butchered. A boy ran up with a can of gasoline, doused the SUVs, and struck a match. The black smoke pointed like a finger up into the sky, attracting a swelling crowd. Egged on by older men, boys dragged the smoldering corpses onto the pavement and beat the charred flesh with their flip-flops to show that Americans were scum under the soles of their shoes. A body was ripped apart, and a leg attached to a rope was tossed over a power line above the highway. This continued all day, the crowd spurring on one another, shouting, "Viva Mujahideen, long live the resistance." 2 of the charred corpses were dragged behind a car through the souk, which is a part of the town.
Okay.
Past rows of small shops and hundreds of cheering men, to the green trestle bridge that the Americans called the Brooklyn Bridge. There the mob hung the bodies from an overhead girder, 2 black lumps dangling at the end of ropes. Crowds in the souk and along the highway were swept up in the murderous atmosphere. No police tried to restore order. No fire truck put out the flames smoldering around the SUVs. No ambulance came for the bodies. When 2 Iraqi nurses tried to take the bodies to a hospital, they were told to leave or be shot. End quote.
That's quite an image there, man.